Hiya, Mikey. You're doing a recording and trying to sit down on this table. So we got two posters. Oh, okay. Fold now. We have lots of hands on this guy, so I want to try and dig into his stats. The guy, like, never RFIs. And seems like he's just like the super tight passive pre. Looking at the guys behind, a fish in the blinds with a potential jam stack, although I don't know if he realizes that, but I think with the fish it makes it more of a call. So this guy so far is a pretty tight RFI, but those are pretty loose stats. Um, I think we'll bet 1/3. It's generally my default multi-way. I don't mind it with this shorter stack who can check raise a bunch, and this guy maybe having like weaker ace high hands. So this guy calls, I guess it's like weaker queen X and then flush draws and then jack 10. I think betting an amount that keeps a jack 10 in. Well, he's pretty tight, so I don't know how much like jack 10 off he actually has. Shit, paid too much. Um, he's I don't know how much jack 10 off he has. He might just be like jack 10 suited, and there's a bunch of queen X, and then flushes, and then maybe some gutters with a flush draw. Um, Maybe just like that. It kind of puts him in a spot where queen X is hard to fold. A flush draw plus gutter is getting pretty close to the right price there, but not exactly when I have the set. Um, and I think he has reverse implied odds there if he hits his flush and spades come. And the board pairs, it's pretty tough for me there. I think trying to target the queen X with a smaller bet makes a lot of sense. I think that's a big part of his range. I don't think flushes are that big of a part of his range when he's so tight. So, yeah. Um, okay, so we have an idea of that. Um, Basically, just limps this entire range. Okay, let's see about river calls. It's a pretty oddly played ace king here. It's pretty passively played. Um, so we have a few lines where he's just being like pretty tricky on the flop. Um, yeah, I'd rather spend my time here trying to collect reads rather than watching the hands. I think we get a lot more value there. Um, Otherwise, his calls on the river are pretty standard. So far, all of his calls are good. And we just raise NA2 here. This dude seems a bit more reggy. So he hasn't made any bad calls, and then he's folded all the other hands. Um, he has an ace high call down and like a limp pot, which is pretty fine, it seems. So he actually has no bad calls. Looks like the ace king didn't save. Okay, let's get some more data on his flop play. Okay, just limp anything. Dude seems so far pretty tight passive. Bet. I guess he calls like 5x, 6x, bunch of gutters. Maybe one over with a club type hands. Queen 7, King 7. Hands might call. Not convinced as like 5x, 6x bets for protection here. His 10 might raise. There's lots of bluffs. I don't like having the queen of clubs. So I think it's a pretty close spot already, and then having like the queen of clubs blocking all those floats, like queen 7, queen 8, queen 9, queen 4, queen 3, even. It's not ideal. However, it still might just be a call. I'm not sure. I feel like I used to have a limp pot. Oh, there we go. I have a bad limp pot stat. We can limp behind with these guys. I think he's supposed to check range. Um, just keep checking. Don't really like c-betting this wide. This guy has a bunch of strong hands in his range. Guy's pretty loose out of the lines. Pretty easy fold. I don't know if they check an ace twice, but I think a king they would play like this fairly often. It's gonna be important to look at like aggression frequency here for potential bluffs. We have no river bluffs from the dude. We have this one that's not even like a bluff. So we have no bluffs from him. However, he does seem reggy. I'm pretty wary of these like big blind 3 bets. I'll call in position. The dude does seem reggy. So it does seem close and he has a lot of potential bluffs, but I don't know. He seems passive so far, hasn't done anything out of line. I think the hands he checks are just hands that I beat for the most part, and I think checking back is pretty darn reasonable. I think betting this particular ace king is also pretty damn reasonable as well. Okay, well, 3 bets fairly small for a re-ISO. I think we have to just click call. I think a raise just looks like too weird and strong and stuff. And we'll call whatever he bets and potentially jam. So do cold call's pretty tight, dude. We're gonna 1/3 this. And then, so what does he check? Like ace queen, ace 9. We don't really rep any bluffs, is the problem. However, and he does seem a bit more reggy. So I think given that, we'll just go like 650. Although I'm kind of worried he'll just be like, oh, I have an ace. I'm not folding. But at the same time, if he can hand read, he seems reggy. I think this is a pretty reasonable size, and maybe even too big. So this guy has a pretty strong range, and now the hard draw comes, like, just gonna bet like that. You shouldn't have that many jack X, you should just be like ace X and gutters. And shouldn't have 6-6 too often. So, or Jack Jack or Ace Ace, so feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, what are you gonna do? It's just bad luck. I was hoping he had Ace X of Hearts or something. This guy seems pretty damn loose, so I think ISO's okay. We'll go a little bit bigger size. That's my standard size. So he just has like this nonsense 3-bet. Oh no, he's all in, I see. So we could put him on a pretty wide range, but he did limp call from UTG, so kind of smashes there. I don't know how much like Ace X off, King X off is in that range. I think he mostly like has under pairs or smashes. Um, think we'll have some opportunities for a bluff on the river if he checks to us again. Um, However, I think this is a pretty reasonable bluff just versus his like under pairs, really weak hands. I think we could rep like a ace jack, pocket jacks, and you could have like ace x suited, king x low suited. Just targeting those now. People check twice generally don't have good ranges. They generally overfold, so let's bet small, target the trash now. Um, Sky isn't betting much in limp pots, he isn't donk betting. He doesn't have much c-bet opportunity. Seems really passive on the flop. Looks like he folds the c-bet a lot. Um, didn't have time to like look into whether we should raise the reg, but I don't really like raising a limping reg. See if we have any of his limping hands. Check back. I guess that's usually like ace highs, under pairs. I think this is a pretty good board, pretty good spot for me to bet now. So we can't be too happy with him snap calling and then that river. I think he's more like 4x, 7x, king x, or spade draw that got there. It's not a good situation for us. Yeah. Um, Not unreasonable to raise that hand. We keep betting into him and losing, I, but I think that's a reasonable check calling hand. Just don't want to keep betting into a guy and losing. um, just showing a weak hand. That's not a good card. Let's try and win with queen high. King 5. He didn't bet flop. It's a pretty strong range. Pretty easy fold for us. Let's dig into this guy. Um, don't think we need to put super tight RFI. I think that's kind of obvious. Um, I don't know if we could peel here, and he's pretty tight. Just click fold. Okay, so we have some pretty nice notes versus this guy. Okay. Let's look at this guy. This guy's pretty high cold call in position, 25-30%. It seems like he just has 3-bet an ace king before on the cutoff, so maybe less ace king than your typical dude. He did check back that mid pair in a limp pot. Maybe that means something. Maybe he's less likely to float. His stab in position isn't that high, but he has so much air. I think we'll do that. I mean, he can still just float a bunch of it. We want to keep the... He seems fairly aggressive on the turn so far, so I think it might be reasonable to check. I didn't like that thought process at all. Yeah, it looks like he's on weak pair, ace high. We can represent a fair amount of bluffs for checking the turn. That was pretty crappy process on the turn. The river's okay. I mean, yeah, it's weak pair, high card hand. Target the weak pairs with a bet like that. I think is pretty reasonable versus a fish. I think we have lots of bluffs we can rep, and we don't rep that much value. So it's fairly loose guy, short stack. I think the better pocket pair is pretty unlikely. I think versus his loose, very loose range, it seems like we can click call. He has a high VPIP. I mean, we can bet just this hand. Yeah, I still think king, queen, ace, queen are going to be part of this range, potentially. Queen 10 suited. But he has all those under pairs that can check back. There might be some ace highs in there that not want to bluff. So I think it's just check and try and beat the under pairs. It's hard to represent a bluff now. It's hard to get called by worse now. And he could have a queen 10 or something still. Yeah, or ace queen. I don't know what we're really getting to fold with a third pot on the flop. Yeah. So our guy rarely raises pre. Huh. Do we stick this in? I think a jam actually looks like weak enough where that would be the play. Like aces and kings I might go bigger, but I think a jam Well, we have this collie guy here, giving him the chance to click call, I think is pretty important. I think we'll go like, we got the two fishier guys, so that's why I'm doing this instead. However, this looks really strong to this guy, but I think these guys might find some pretty loose calls. I'm not convinced that this is the best play. I think it looks too strong. I think it looks pretty damn strong versus this guy, but I want to give this guy the opportunity to call. He seems pretty damn loose. Or that guy. And we'll stick it in, and let's not low flop. It's as bad as it gets. What are you gonna do? I don't know, maybe a jam folds king jack suited. I don't know. So, I think that's a cool benefit there. I do feel like a lot of the fish just fold to jam. Good draw. Lots of potential floats in his range here. 4x, 5x. Um, Not many bluffs now. You'd have to have like two overs, no heart, which I think is pretty unlikely. And the dude seems pretty passive. We might actually fold this to significant bet. Um, I'm kind of hoping he just has like a weak two pair somehow. Or just some dumb bluff. I don't think we can fold two pair to him. That's a good bet size by him. That was well done. I would have folded to a normal bet. Just hoping like shenanigans factor was higher there. That's a well played hand by him. Maybe I should have folded. Yeah. Alright, be right there. Three bet. Um, that looks pretty damn strong to me. Wait, is that a 10-8 offsuit open? Yeah, it's a short stack rejam. Okay, that's a lot nicer. I think we'll call and just keep the fish in. Rather than play a thinnish kind of 3-bet spot. This could mean a more nutted hand or a more weaker hand. I feel like it's kind of polarizing after his last size, but who knows. Um, yeah, don't know if that's good. There's another guy behind, but he's a really wide range. I don't know if he does that with king queen or ace dad. Pretty hard to know. Seems like a pretty light call down. This doesn't have all the hands, I see. Okay. It's another situation where like draws miss and he calls with the weak pair. Yeah, that's pretty fine call. What? I think I like ISOing this short stack limper. Okay, we're back. Ah, we didn't want to post. Hmm. Seems like it'll be worth the bet. Ah, we posted here too. Still gotta learn that move. This is not a good 3-bet by this dude. This guy has such a strong hand. This guy's so crushed. But I don't know, he might have over limped ace queen, to be honest. I think he's like jacks or kings or ace king fairly often here. Tens, jacks, kings. I guess he's more ace king now. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awful 3-bet. Pretty sure he had 7-4 suited. Well, this guy's like less likely to be using a HUD. I guess he has no idea he's getting 0 folds there. He's up against like a 2% range. Let's see if we could try and dig up a little bit more data on this dude. Okay. What happens if it checks through when a 9 comes? Or a 5? I think that's the only like interesting spot where I'll have a decision. Um, this guy seems like fairly nitty, potentially worth attacking. Looks like I got all the info I can from this guy. That way I know like when to not look again. This guy's not going to do the proper raising, so we could limp a 9-4 off behind. This guy will overbet if we check. We'll bet too much, so I can check call this hand instead. It's not that. I mean, having the club and being able to turn a gutter or river straight, I think makes this a decent like check call candidate. Okay, we got the super net, we got the pretty loose guy. I think checking to let him bluff is pretty important. I'm trying to think if he bets like weak pairs that often, and I don't really see it. I think he's like draws 9-10, Jack-10, 8-10 type situation. I don't think raising has any particular value, even with this much equity. And yeah, we'll just fold. He has so many bluffs and he doesn't really rep anything besides like 10-4, Queen 10, maybe Queen 5 for thin value. I don't think you could do that with a weak 10. Um, I think he has some value hands, but he just has like so many potential bluffs and just like, well, we have zero river bluffs, so we just see the flop stuff. So actually, I really don't mind folding for Sim. Mm, this guy's yet to call a river, fairly tight. So it seems like he has a tighter range. Ah, I didn't see that guy in the pot. Damn it. My bad. Definitely shouldn't have been digging to the HUD after raising there. So it's just a thing I have to learn. Often is dude limp folding. So he limps the button quite often and he's pretty tight. So I actually expect lots of limp folds from him. Do I want, and I think a lot of like overfolds by the river. So I really don't mind going for it here, like really wide. And I think this guy's not really gonna fuck with me, or this guy. They're not like loose fish. I think this guy seems to overfold river, limps a wide range, limp folds decently often there. High fold to c bet. I think it just sets up fairly well for us. I think this guy overcalling is. I guess there's like pocket pairs here, suited connectors. You could have like a 5x suited, some ace 3 suited, ace 4, ace 5, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 8s. Yeah, that's pretty damn exploitative. It's probably a little bit digging too much into my reads, but I spent a lot of time this whole session, like a lot of the session, digging into his hands, so I don't hate it. And then I seen like your thin ISO versus like limps. I don't know. I think it's I don't I think it's a too wide, but I like the spirit of it. There's so many gutters in his range that think this might be worth like a biggish bet, but I don't know. It's so hard when the ranges are so wide. It's kind of unfortunate. I mean, he has so many combos of those gutters potentially to not be betting. That's just a pretty complex spot for me. I don't know what the bluff should be. I think a king 5 is not unreasonable at all. I think we'll take this seat, get position on the fishy. See his bet limp pot. It's 26%. He has a 7-6 in there, and mid pair in there. Yeah, let's see if he follows through on like one of the worst rivers in the deck for him. He does. We can't stand up yet. There's time left. Still plenty of time, so it's worth moving. This is... I would say this isn't a good table, but I really like attacking this dude. So, that guy's super nitty, but seems to really like the small blind for raising. So I don't know. I think we'll just skew towards him being really tight, and that's just being an anomaly. Okay. Um, Thinking about sizing here. Decently loose. I think it's an interesting hand to try and give him a free card or induce a bet from a pair. I think it could look like we're giving up. There's lots of just like two overs, jack 10 off type hands. And I think a lot of the pairs would actually bet on this board. So yeah, like check raising here. Sticking it in. Okay, it's not a well played hand, sir. Fold the flop. That is not good enough. Our fish left, so we'll leave this table. Looks like this table is breaking. That's this table. Down. Damit. Guy's pretty loose, very low win rate. See where to sit. That's where we're gonna sit. And I like a pretty big sizing. Charges ace highs. That's surprising. Unfortunate. Hey, that's a decent turn. That guy seems reggy. That guy seems somewhat reggy. That guy seems somewhat reggy. That guy seems reggy. That guy seems reggy. So we just have like, good thing we picked this seat, because otherwise this table's pretty garbage. Hurry up, man. Make a move. How much time you want? I don't know if that button does. No. Not fair. I don't know. Checks through when a 3 comes. What do we do? We check through when a 9 comes. What do we do? It's probably the only interesting questions. Only time I put in money. Not winning hands. We should have got the new table. This is probably going to be full. Okay, river scum is pretty fishy. So that's good. And we remember to sit out this time. Okay, I think a nice big size with the fish and the straddle is ideal. This guy is new, but low sample, maybe less likely to be a reg. Stats mean less. I think we'll go Popa checks through or check call. It's better play. Lots of like queen jack off, queen 10 off, jack 10 off potentially in that range. I don't want to fold yet. 7-8 suited, 10-8 suited. It's interesting. Think the play is just the showdown and hope he has the gutter. However, that's seemingly less likely with that a lot of those have turned double gutters or open enders. He had 8-7 off. Okay, so just go 130. Want to scare anyone off? Right? That just is. It's almost always a big hand. However, yeah, I think it's just a big hand, and we're just gonna stick it in, just in case he has like ace king, and then can't fold. I don't know, the sizing, timing, him being more reggy. I don't want like an ace king have a chance to get away from it. Nice hand. Might be a tell thing with the sizing, so yeah. And the timing. This guy's pretty bad. Okay, his first RFI, you can have it. Any notes on the SuperNet? perfectly spelled hand. So his call straddle is 29% so far. Seems more reggy. His fold to C bets pretty high. And he doesn't have a check raise. So that's pretty good to note. He also seems to donk bet fairly often. So maybe that's part of the reason why. But pretty confident in that read. Um, Table seems to be, we'll just go that size. Argument for going smaller than that, but I don't know. This guy seemed fairly loose. Yeah, it might be too big. Okay. There's the fishy guy too. I forgot about that. I think we'll just try and get all the money in here. 500 allows us to jam the turn pretty much. That's reasonable card. It's not the best, not the worst. And yeah, we'll just stick it in. There's not too much into this. Stick that in. There's not too much thought process. He's just a pretty huge fish. Board's pretty drawy. You can have like king 5. Ugh. Pretty tight guy comes with a limp. I think we might just limp behind. I'm kind of worried. But we don't know that much. It's not. That's a pretty significant sample. I think we're gonna limp behind. Would have been nice to know more about their ISOs and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of worried that that's traps or not very weak hands, not many limp folds. Could just be a fold. If I had a heart, I might bet. Jack or queen comes. Do we do? How likely is someone to check a deuce now? It's kind of interesting to raise this. I think there's a lot we can get value from. I think we're gonna raise, get the value now, and then just fold to 3-bet pretty confidently. There's a lot of deuce X, but there's a lot of jack X and flush draws. I think he has to fast play those. I think he has to 3-bet a deuce. I don't think he has 9-10 all that often. I don't think I rep all that much. I think he just has a jack or an 8. 8x of spades hand. I think he can easily put us on a bluff if we half pot and click call. I think a deuce 3-bets a lot on this board. So I think we have a nice little value bet here. Alright, he had king jack of hearts. I did not consider better jack X that often. I perhaps should have considered that he 2/3 and there isn't that much 8x in that size, and that people can track as strong as like king jack, ace jack there pre-flop. Yeah, so like versus a range that's more of like jack 9 plus, or maybe jack X of hearts plus flush draws, maybe some straight draws, gutters, And then all that deuce X, that is not a very good proposition. It's not nearly as good, especially when you just call and there's a guy behind us who can have a deuce and be checking as well. I think call is the play. Um, so yeah, I didn't dig enough into the sizing there. How that makes him more polarized. I didn't give him enough bigger jack X. I think it was interesting hand though. Buddy here seems pretty fishy. I think we could click call once he calls. Or fold. He's pretty loose. I don't feel like we can fold. I don't feel like we can jam. I don't feel like we could 3-bet. So I think it's a call. But it could just be a fold. Hmm. What happens if it checks through? I don't think he checks that many king X. So his bet range is going to be like queen jack, ace queen, king X, sets. Still have enough equity to call, but I don't think there's that many worse hands or bluffs, like maybe a jack 9, queen 9 suited. And then there's always chances for other things. You never know. Yeah, we look pretty strong. Hopefully he gives up the gutter now. Maybe he has jacks or queens, but it's a bit less likely. So we're getting 3.5 to 1 versus a pretty strong range. I think our we need like 6 to 1. We would need to kind of stack him all the time when an ace or 9 comes, and I think we kind of do, actually. But there's still the diamond draws out there, so we're not even that live. So we'll pass. Looks like the fish got stacked. No. Stop lagging. So our friend, so he stabs out of position on the turn fairly wide, and then he overfolds the c-bet. Might be worthwhile to put in a potential check back. Hmm. Guy's pretty nitty. Could call, but I think it's a fold. Hmm. Hmm. Is he really checking like tens plus? Does he really have like a 9x at this point? I don't really think so, and there's lots of potential bluffs here. I think we'll click call. There's not that many better pairs in their ranges either. Eh, I didn't really expect a check raise from him on that turn. Seems pretty full of shit. It feels really full of shit, but I really don't want to get it in with fives. I don't need to do that. It feels really full of shit. It feels like he just has a draw, because I just feel like he would bet an 8 after that last Queen Jack, King Jack debacle with me in the pot. You really expected that 8 to get bet, bro? I don't think so. There's so many draws there, too. Just not that many 8x. Hmm. My fives call might be too thin. Guess we're staying because this guy's in the hand in the game still. Hmm. It's probably not that good with the king queen. Not that I can blame him for calling off, but yeah, I'm calling. Guess I'm calling turn. Not sure. Overcall. No reads. Um, we don't really have any 4x, so they check through. They could be checking under pairs. Could be checking some jack X. Block tens and nines. You block jack 10, jack 9. We don't have any overs though. It'd be pretty nice to just have like a queen or a king. Two diamonds or something. I think pairs are very liable to bet now. I think they're pretty squarely in like, I think it's a pretty reasonable bet. Um, and we'll bet small and just hope they have like the air portions of their range. We rep lots of pairs here, I think. Yeah, we block nines. I was hoping those pairs would bet the turn. Usually people check twice and then you bet. It's like pretty good, like Alan Jackson bluff line. Um, Pretty worried actually, given how tight he is. I just don't like my image versus him. Like I just keep showing bluffs and stuff and losing, and he hasn't been RFIing that much. Just didn't want to play like a marginal hand out of position versus him. Somewhat marginal hand. And what was his size there? So so if he opens this 25%, which we don't necessarily think that he does. Your ace-jack still folds sometimes, so I think my fold's pretty cool. I like it. Moving here might be ideal. Get a better position on this guy. One night and one more time. The fuck? So annoying. I'll just take the seat because I don't want to wait 3 fucking hands. Okay, so we have the overfolder. Mm. So less weak gutters in his range. But, yeah, I guess we're still going for it here. This call river's pretty low, which is nice. That's not the river you want. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Um, could have thought more about the turn. It just seemed like a pretty standard bet, but yeah, I should have dug into the turn a bit more, dug in what to do on the river there. I don't like my process there. At least if I think it's such a standard bet, then just think about the river before you bet. Kind of feel like this guy's full of shit. I feel like that's a weak hand, and we're gonna click call. That's just my read. I think it's just some bullshit hand. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Okay, so maybe pocket pairs below mine. Just give ups. I don't know if there's that many give ups on ace 7, 9, 8. Okay, so he checks twice. I think it's worth it to put in the bet for protection here. And that's a good card. So we're skewing him towards like weak ace, tens, jacks, queens. Kind of just has to. We have to hope he has the weak ace, basically. Otherwise, he's just folding, right? So how would I target a weak ace? I think I'd just bet a little under half pot. Just hope he has the weak ace or makes a bad call. If he jams, kill yourself. Alright, so I'm starting him off on a pretty tight range. Not very happy right now. I'm actually gonna fold, I think. I just think the cutoff 3 bets are really strong. I think that sizing's really strong. I think if he was bluffing, I think the sizing just feels like he wants to barrel a bit more and put me in tough spots. We're just gonna overfold. It's a pretty significant overfold. Would call 6s and 7s, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're not the same thing. It's 3 of 3 on the button. I don't mind going for it. Definitely not in the bunker range. But three betting just seems to work very often for me. On high poker and on the site. Do we have any of the fish left? Don't think we have any fish left. I think we'll get the fuck out of here. Is that the table that I'm on? Nope. Looks like he called the open and then back four bet. It's usually like nines, tens, queens. Reggy, reggy, ray, somewhat reggy. It's not a great situation for us. Another reggy player. Let's hope they aren't reggy. Keep an eye on this table for sure. It's definitely on quit alert. I like betting. The guy hasn't bet in limp pot once out of 6 times either. So I guess you could have some offsuit 7x with how loose he is, some 5-6, ace-5 off. Okay, like, cause I did some work there. That was a